welcome. My name is George Valdez. I am your host and head of marketing here at Monograph and Company. Bolanle, welcome to the Section Cut stage.
Hi, everyone. I am really excited to be here. And as I said, well done to the Monograph team. So I'm excited for you guys can, feel empowered. We are going to be talking today about creating bold possibilities within your organizations and really and truly just empowering you as a leader to build bold firms. And so just really quickly, high level, I just wanted to talk about what we'll be going into in my presentation today. One is how to boldly lead yourself. Two, the bold framework, which, as George said, is from my new book called Build Boldly. I'm going to share with you that bold framework that has shown up throughout my career and how you can then apply it to your style of leadership and also like it trickle down into your organization. And then the last thing that we're going to talk about is how to apply this bold framework to your people and practice. Clearly, you can tell that I like acronyms, I like words, so you can see the people, practice, bold, and I'm just ready for us to get into it. But of course, I just wanted to quickly just introduce myself, who I am, and then what I've done so far, and why I'm really passionate about the bold framework. And so as George said, I'm the CFO and co-owner of Mancini. I've been in the AEC industry now going on 15 years. I'm also the founder of She Builds Lives, She Builds Money, She Builds Waves, and Reach Nigeria. And you can learn more about those on my website. I'm also the author of Build Boldly. Clearly, I love the built industry. It flows through everything that I do. And then the last thing that I wanted to share, of course, is that I'm a lover and creator of the most fun themed party experiences. I just had a wonderful birthday party for my daughter who just turned 8. And so, yeah, that's pretty much who I am. And so, one of the things or the questions that I want to pose to you, and please feel free to type some of your responses in the comments. Does being bold in business lead to success? I want you guys to spend, a few seconds thinking about this and sharing your feedback around that. So does being bold in business lead to success? Waiting to see some of your answers. And I of course, you guys must know what my answer is. But I just want to hear from your own experience looking at your firms, running your firms. Has being bold in your business led you to success? Yes. Wonderful. Yes, to being bold, you have to. Yes, I love the comments coming through. And so while I asked that question, I did do some research on stats, right? 61% of very successful companies consider their businesses to be bold in the way it operates. How you run your business, how you run profitable businesses, how you lead people. There are 61% of very successful companies that consider their businesses to be bold. In fact, bold companies equate to some of the most successful, recognizable companies in the world, such as the big names, as you can see, Apple, Google, Virgin, Dyson, and Sky. I want us, all of us firm leaders in here, to run big, bold, successful firms. You're not just in business. I always say you're not just in business to foster a hobby that you have, but you really want to make a difference. You want to make a difference for the folks who work for you internally. And then you also want to make a difference when it comes to building your client experiences, building your client base, understanding the kinds of projects that you deliver. And you cannot deliver wonderful projects without leaning into that bold side of yourself. And so, I like this framework, right? And I want you guys to also think about this, right? To build a bold firm that is successful involves building bold teams, which ultimately starts with a bold leader. In essence, a bold you, right? You cannot build a bold firm without thinking about the different aspects or the different pieces of it that leads up to you having a bold firm. It starts with the individuals, it starts with your people, which then rolls up into the team. But then who is leading this team? It has to be a bold leader, a bold you. And so before we even say, okay, so now we know, okay, I need to be a bold leader. I want to build this bold firm. But let's first talk about the leader itself. And I want you guys also to share with me in the comments, why is it often difficult to transition from a technical expert to a leader, right? So a lot of us, we end up in our organizations, we begin to shine in the technical aspect. And then of course, what that tends to do is push us into leadership positions. But what we tend to see, or what I've seen in my experience, is that sometimes it's often difficult to transition from a technical expert to a leader. Let me know in the chat why you think this is the case. And I want to be able to read some of your comments out. So why is it difficult to transition from a technical expert to leader? Of course, in the next slides, I'm going to share with you, but I want to see from your own experience. Yeah, so Janine shares that it requires a different set of skills. I think that's where we typically see people fall short, right? We are great architects, but then in school, they don't teach us how to run our businesses, or you're a great architect or a designer, and then you're now, elevated into a studio leadership position, but then now you don't know how to transition your skills over to make sure that your team is successful. And so, there's this thing that I really want you to think about, right? The leadership transition gap. And there are three main buckets in which, this gap falls inside. One is your mindset, right? For you to move from that technical expert to a leader, and then to a firm leader to run a successful, bold company, your mindset has to change, right? Your skills, the skills that are required has to change. The people and team, understanding how you build that relationship with your team, understand how you nurture them, understand how you're retaining them. Those three things have to change when you're now in a position of leadership. Yeah, thank you guys for sharing some more. Andrew shared that you're used to doing things on your own, right? And so that's that transition from operating in your skill set, operating in your comfort zone where you thrive, to now having to lead people, stepping away from the day-to-day grind, to now having to nurture people, right? It requires forward thinking, seeing 6 to 12 months into the future every day. That's correct. We think that the technical expertise often presents without poetry. Some of the most persuasive, bold leaders come from strong technical backgrounds. They have found purpose and passion. It's that connection. Thank you guys for sharing all of these great thoughts around this. But yeah, that truly is, when you think about all these different things that you guys are sharing, it's the mindset, it's the skills, it's understanding people and teams, right? There is a stat that says that about 77% of leaders lack leadership skills, right? So you need to then begin to think about, if I'm going to run my organization, if I'm going to be leading people, or if you're running a studio, right, or running leading teams, I need to think about this position differently, right? George shared, it means becoming comfortable with building others to grow. Excellent points that you guys are sharing. So I really want you to think about that leadership gap, right? Do some introspective thinking as to how am I as a leader? Am I lacking in any of these areas? And what am I going to do to help me begin to make strides, either one, into changing my mindset, the skills, or how I'm interacting with the people and my teams. And while we can go into all these different areas, I'm going to be focusing a lot on mindset, and then how that transition to your people and practice. So, to be a leader, one of the things that I see always come up is that for you to be a leader, you have to lead yourself first. A lot of people say, well, not everybody's born to be a leader. We're all not going to be in leadership positions, but I want to challenge you to thinking about approaching the word leadership differently, right? How am I leading myself? How am I showing up to this project that I'm working on? Even if I am coming straight out of school and I've been given a task, how am I leading within that task? How am I differentiating myself? How am I showing up, right? So for you to be able to lead other people, you have to first be able to lead yourself. And so, I share like how do you lead yourself? And honestly, there's no two ways about it. It starts with your mindset. You've got to be able to get into that driver's seat and define for yourself, what is your bold vision? What is your bold vision for your career? What is your bold vision for your journey? What do you want to see happen? How do you begin to make small, impactful changes that's going to affect how you show up? How is it going to impact your leadership style? How is it going to impact the teams that you're leading, that you're running, How are you going to show up? But before you can even do that, you have got to change that seat. So I will give an example. For me, very early on in my career, I didn't know that I would end up in a position of leadership. But I've always sort of operated that way, even when I was first starting out, as a junior project accountant. I've always thought about, how can I bring value? How can I bring value to the organization? How can I bring value to the accounting team that I was working on? Even though it might not have been as intentional when I was first coming up, I've always operated that way. And so I've been able to build on that. And then building on the relationships I have has then got me, into this position of leadership that I am currently in at Mancini. And so I really want you to think about, like, what is my mindset? How do I change that mindset? How do I get in control and not allow, life happen or my career happen without me first being in there to make sure that I'm defining what that bold vision is going to be. And so here are some of the benefits, right? So I'm throwing out words. I'm saying, okay, you need to be bold. This is more so touching on the human skills that you need to run your organizations or to run both firms. But I wanted to share some of the benefits, and I hope you guys can see it. But one, personal benefits, there are personal benefits, and there are benefits for your team and the companies that you're running, right? Self-awareness, right? Self-confidence. It gives you meaning and purpose. When you understand what your why is, when you understand why you're showing up for the folks that you're leading, it adds to the personal benefits for you, right? Better relationships. We can't build bold firms without nurturing the relationships internally and externally. So it helps you have better relationships. It helps you increase your focus and creativity. In terms of your organization, right, you are going to have a more engaged and empowered workforce. Your teams are going to plug in. Your teams want leaders who are real, leaders who are themselves, and you will see shortly, I'm sort of getting ahead of myself, but your teams want leaders who they can connect and engage with. And if you're not bold, if you're not able to, understand what these benefits will do, even from a profitability perspective, it's going to be hard for you to switch your mindset into thinking this way, right? You're able to make faster and better decisions. You're able to reduce conflicts by leaning into that bold side, by leading yourself, by stepping into that, when you're able to lead yourself, you're able to then do this for others, right? You're able to foster collaboration amongst your teams better. So there are several different benefits I really want you guys to think about when it comes to leading yourself and then leading yourself boldly. And so, I'm going to spend a little bit of time here on the bold framework and how I've seen this show up, in my career, and how myself and, my partners at Mancini are leading our firm through this bold framework. When I think about like moments in my career where I really saw growth, where I saw change, one as an employee, and then now leading other people, I sort of thought about these four things that I want to like delve a little bit into, and I share in my book, Build Boldly. So the first thing is being yourself. Right? Be yourself with true integrity. It doesn't mean that, you show up one way in the workforce, and then when you go out, you show up a different way, but it's being yourself with integrity, understanding what your strengths are and amplifying what makes you unique. So what makes you unique as a leader, right? How can you show up as your true self in your firms, in your practice? I always, there's a quote that I always keep in the back of my mind, that people want leaders who are real, not leaders who are perfect. Right. So for you to be able to lead people, you need to show up as yourself. It gives them agency and the freedom to also show up as their true selves, understanding and really evaluating what their strengths are. People connect better with real people. The next thing that I want you to think about is opening your mind to new definitions and opportunities. How are you challenging the status quo? How are you doing things differently for your organization? How are you thinking about new ways in which you can apply, how are you thinking about new ways when it comes to managing your client relationships? How are you looking for new opportunities? How are you diversifying your practice? How are you thinking about ways in which you need to nurture your people, right? Push yourself and others to think differently and innovatively, make new rules, right? At Mancini, one of the things that we started doing 5 years ago is, really exploring technology in our practice and how we design. But this idea came by us having, conversations with the folks on the floor, and an employee was like, "Oh, I think we can use a gaming engine system to apply to apply improvements in how we design." But what did we as firm leaders say? We had the courage to say yes to that. We had the courage to open our minds and think about, the short-term impact that it can have for the employee, the engagement that it can have for our people. And then now 5 years later, we have our design lab. We have something called our Design 360 process, which puts people into 3D, connects people in 3D to their models, right? We're able to bring our clients very early on into the design process. It is how we do things differently at Mancini. And if we never challenge the status quo, if we never thought about how can we think about bringing technology into the profession, or how it can help improve our process, defining our Mancini way, if we weren't open to that, we wouldn't be where we are today. Right? So really I want you to really think about your mindset, right? How can I open my mind to new definitions and opportunities that can help push my firm, push my business forward, push my business operations forward, right? And then L is lift others, right? How are you mentoring and championing people and their ideas? How are you bringing out the best in your people? This is how you build trust. This is how you build engagement. This is how you form good relationships with the people who are working for you. This is how you get buy-in. If you're not lifting your people, and we'll go again further into how you can lift your people, but if you're not lifting them, they will leave. Right? They will leave. They will go to other places. And I'm not saying that people can't go, but what is their experience when they're at your organization? Right? What is your experience when they're with you? How are you also, even externally, how are you also mentioning your clients' names or your vendor partner names in rooms that they should be mentioned in? So really think about, how do I lift others in my style of leadership? And then the last thing that I wanted to, that I'll share around the BOLD framework is D, which is don't wait, do it now. Right? There is never a perfect time to make changes. You need to start now. You need to dream big, start small, but start right now, right? Take it one step at a time. Look at your entire business practice. Look at the finances, look at your marketing, look at staffing, look at how you're running your studios. And what is the one change that you can make right now? What is that 1% that you can make right now? Change that you can make right now that is going to bring long-term impact into your business, right? So that's the BOLD framework. Be yourself, open your mind to new definitions and opportunities, lift others, don't wait, do it now. This BOLD framework has shown up many times in my career path, right? When it comes to building community, when it comes to transparency, so I'll give another example on the open your mind to new definitions and opportunities. One of the things that I did as CFO when I joined Mancini, or when I was within the finance group and I joined Mancini, was being transparent with our numbers, right? That is how we build employee trust. everybody is keyed into the vision. We set our goals at the start of the year, and throughout the year, in our monthly town hall meetings that we have, we share progress. Right, we share progress with folks. They can see how we're moving towards the financial goals that we set for ourselves, the huge firm-wide goals that we set for ourselves. So that's one way in which my partners were open to a new way of defining what is Mancini about, right? What do we want to be known as, right? And so another way in which we lift others is we promote people when they're scrappy, when it's time, not based off of a hierarchical system that waits until you're 10 years, waits until you're 15 years before you can move up to associate or move up to senior associate. If you're showing interest, if you're showing leadership skills, if you're ready to step into that position, we will lift you up. All right, so I want you also to take this away, right? Being bold is finding ways to create solutions and make an impact, not sometime in the future, but now, right? The whole thing about don't wait, do it now is like, a lot of us can say, well, I don't really have time right now. I can't do this. Things are busy. I'm just trying to make sure that we can make it day in, day out. But if you're a leader, there's onus on you to think about what solutions can I bring to my organization right now, right? What is the one thing that I can do right now that is going to create solutions for my people, right? That's how you're going to build a bold firm, right? So I really want you to think about this bold framework. One, apply it to yourself, right? How can I show up boldly as myself? How can I be myself so that my people can connect with me? How can I open my mind to new ways of thinking? How can I open my mind to the opportunities that I can provide for my people and for my clients? How can I lift others, right? We see people leaving early. You see mothers leaving the profession, right? So I'm a mother. How am I making room? How am I advocating for at Mancini so that mothers have a feel included in my organization? So I'm just giving like real examples now of things that really affect how you build a bold firm. And so how does bold leadership impact your people and practice, right? So if the comment section is on fire, I see too. But if you can share with me, right, how, just based off of what I've said so far, how does bold leadership impact your people and practice? How have you seen it impact if you're a bold leader? Share some ways in which you've seen it make a difference. Yeah, and I'm just going to share some of the things that you guys have been saying. Another concept I've heard of is to make yourself obsolete. Yes, build up new leaders to replace you. That is 100% true, right? Once you're in a position of leadership, you need to be pushing people to be their best. You need to help them grow in professionally. They need to also, if you're identifying areas in which they can contribute, even outside of their task, but they can contribute to the organization, empower them to do that. If they come to you with an idea, empower them, have the courage to say yes. Bold leadership enables people to become realized. I love that. Right. So here are some stats on how bold leadership connects with your people and practice. It increases employee engagement. Right? Your employees are more engaged when you are leading boldly, when you have defined what your own version of bold leadership looks like, and you are leading that way. You're leading truly to yourself, right? Employee engagement increases in your organization. People will follow, I say this again, people will follow a leader who's real. People connect with real people. And I know, and before I go into this slide, right, it's not easy. I don't want to make it seem like it's something that's easy. You can close your eyes, wake up tomorrow, and you're like, yes, this is what's going to happen. I want to keep reiterating that it's going to take small, consistent changes in your leadership style that you're going to see your floor notice, they will notice, and then they will connect, right? So does bold leadership change your people? One, have a culture that promotes people showing up as their full selves. Have a culture that doesn't that doesn't make people shy away, that doesn't make people feel like, they don't belong. But like, how is your firm culture right now, and can people show up as their full selves, right? So that's one way I want you to think about, how can I now begin to start taking this concept and implementing it into my organization, right? Create an ownership mentality and an entrepreneurial spirit, right? So for you to be able to have people who are going to bring opportunities to you, there needs to be this. They have to also think that they are the CEOs of their own career, right? They are in the driver's seats of their career. That you are there to help them, usher them along their way, as they're building their career, as they're figuring out their career, right? So there is an ownership mentality that is born within your organization, and an entrepreneurial spirit, right? So maybe they want to set up an initiative. I believe I heard that earlier in one of the presentations. Like, create an organization that allows people thrive on their ideas. Can they bring their ideas to you? Is the door open for them to explore things within your organization, right? Give them opportunities to help develop their peers. Invest time and resources in professional development. If you have A players, if you don't want your A players to leave, you're going to have to invest that time. You're going to have to invest that resource, right? I'm going to use myself now as an example. When I joined Mancini as controller. Prior to that, I was a senior project accountant. So there was a knowledge gap for me between moving from senior project accountant, which was looking at things from a project perspective, right? Really being a partner to my project managers, to now leading a firm leading from a firm-wide perspective, right? Having to do things financially that affect the entire organization. But what did Christian Giordano, our president, do? He invested in me very early on. He was like, don't worry, I will get you a consultant. I worked with that consultant for a year, right? He was there as a soundboard. He's still my mentor till today. But because I was an A player, because I knew I was going to show up, because I knew I was going to do a kick-ass job with the position and this opportunity that was given to me, because that time was invested in me upfront, long term, it's paying off. Long term for me, it paid off, right? Within a year, I became CFO, and then within the following year, I became a co-owner, right? But that was because I was identified as an A player, and I was then pushed into an A player. So give your people opportunities to lift their peers up, right? Give them opportunities to invest time. You as a leadership group, like, how are you investing time? How are you mentoring them? How are you championing them? How are you giving opportunities so that they can develop professionally? And the last thing I'm sharing is, have the courage to say yes to their ideas. Don't wait on it, right? Think about, of course, you've set your firm-wide vision, you have your goal, you have your long-term goals. But if they bring an idea to you, how does that fold into the organization's firm-wide goals, right? How can you either nurture that idea? How can you help them develop it? Or how can you give them room so that they can begin to explore these ideas in your organization, right? So have the courage to say yes. If we didn't say yes to a lot of things at Mancini, we wouldn't be where we are right now. We had two of our project managers who were really passionate about staffing, who were really passionate about talent, and they approached us and said they really wanted to take this on. For me and my other, and other folks in leadership, we could have said, oh no, we want to keep it to ourselves. But that was an opportunity for them to explore a different side of them and to build them up as firm leaders, right? So they were managing their studios, they were doing really well on their projects, and then they saw an opportunity. They saw an issue which we had in our organization, and they proposed a solution. So we said yes to them, right? And because we said yes, they've developed this the way they've completely revamped how we do our reviews. right? So before, of course, you guys all know we do an annual review, but annual reviews when you're supposed to be nurturing people year round doesn't really work. A one touch point in the entire year does not work. So they came up with the whole concept of our Mancini approach, right? And a Mancini approach is really empowering our people. And then of course doing peer-to-peer review, right? And also reviewing up. They're able to review up to their the folks who are one level above them, right? And so all of these things, if we never said yes to it, we wouldn't be building bold teams. So I want to go back to that first quote I said, right? To build a bold firm, that is successful, you have to build bold teams, which starts with a bold leader, right? So I've shown you now, I've spent some time talking about how you're a bold leader. Now, how do you lead your people boldly, or how do you empower them to be boldly? Your people then become part of your team, right? So when you've given all of these different pointers, or you started thinking about different ways in which you can make these changes in your organization or how your teams are run, you're going to start having bold teams, right? Think about their relationships with their clients, right? How are you empowering them to share bold ideas with their clients? How are you empowering them to think differently about how they're approaching the problems that your clients are proposing to you guys to help solve, right? So this is how you build bold teams, by building bold people. And then your practice or your firm, right? I know I said build bold firms, but I like the word practice and people. So that's why I switched it up to practice. But be an authentic firm, right? How are you being yourself? By being an authentic firm. Really clarify who you are. Who are you as an organization? Who are you as a firm? What is your legacy? What do you want to be known as? In my book, I talk about your legacy. There's a chapter on your legacy starts now. And I say your legacy is things that you're doing right now. It's not something that you're going to do in the future, but the little things that you're doing every day, that's what builds up your legacy, right? And when you're an authentic firm, and when you're being a firm true to yourself, it allows you to attract and build the right relationships with the right types of clients that you want to work with you. It is your unique selling point. It is your differentiator, right? So be an authentic firm. Be a firm that leads with integrity. Then think about how you operate, right? How are you challenging the status quo? Think about your firm structure. Think about how your focus. How are you delivering new experiences to your clients that set you apart? Are you just doing things the same way, or are you really challenging and separating yourself out from the pack? Right? So I want you to think about these things, right? So that's the O, right? Opening your mind to new definitions and opportunities. So think about your structure and focus on how to deliver new experiences, right? Consistently build up your talent and communicate it. So as you're building up your talent, communicate. A lot of things get misunderstood. They are not fully focused on because you're not communicating enough. So talk about it all the time. It has a positive effect internally and externally on your firm, right? So in our town hall meetings that we do at Mancini, we're consistently talking about the great things that our people are doing, right? The works that we're winning, what they did to allow us win this work. We just think about like how it trickles down from a mindset perspective to our people so that they feel encouraged. They feel encouraged to keep going. And then, of course, externally, they see that you're building an incredible organization. But one of the things the last thing that I want to share, so that you also don't create bad habits or create old sets of rules anymore, is to stay flexible, right? So as you've rolled out all these things, or as you started thinking about your leadership style, rolling out differently, being bold. Once you roll it out, start thinking about how do you make necessary changes that can help your firm grow. Perhaps you roll out a policy that doesn't do so well on the floor. Change it. You're not tied. A policy is old. The moment you release it, a policy is old. So stay flexible. and then make changes that are key to helping your business grow. Right. So I know I'm going because I'm trying to make sure that I get through everything on time. And so here's, my bold challenge to you, right? Are you creating a culture that fosters boldness? Are you doing things because they've always been done that way? Or so now I want you to personalize it for yourself, right? Or are you as a leader pushing into changes that will make things better? Are you creating an experience for your employees that's better than what you came up through? Are you the leader that you wished you had? And what intentional choices will you make today so that things can begin to look differently in your organization? And I say this because, I want you to think, I don't want you just to think about, your current firm size. Maybe you're a 1-person firm, 1 to 3-person firm. All of these things that I'm talking about are very foundational. If you look at a lot of the issues that unfold in our businesses as you grow or as you scale, it goes back to foundation. And if your foundation is not set correctly, you're always going to see these issues pop up as your business is growing. So really think about what intentional choices, what changes can you make today that will help and have great impact on your business. And I know, again, I think this is my last slide here. So I want to also speak about why I'm focused a lot on this and the impact it has on your numbers, right? Because when I am looking, at our financials, I'm looking at the quantitative part. But the quantitative part helps me, when I see the issues that pop up or when I see the patterns that pop up, when projects are not successful, it goes back to how your team is set up, the folks that are working on the teams, right? How you're running your organization. What sorts of practices do you have in your firm? And a lot of this affects how projects do. The projects that I've seen, or the project managers that I've worked with that are successful, that are running successful teams, is because they're doing things differently. It's because these characteristics I've shared is what is showing up, in terms of how they are running their teams. They are project managers who are truly leaning into themselves. They are running their projects with integrity. They carry themselves with integrity. They are empowering their teammates, where they're pulling themselves out of doing the day-to-day runnings of the projects. And what I mean by that is jumping back into a set, right? They are pulling out of their technical skills and really being a leader, right? So they're lifting others into the positions that they need to be in. They're thinking about ways in which to deliver projects to their clients differently. They're asking the right questions. And these changes that they want to see happen, they're not waiting on it, right? So I've worked at majority of different firms, HLW, SOM, Mancini. When I look at the pattern as to which project managers are successful, which projects are doing really well from a profitability perspective, I go back and look at how the projects were run. A lot of it speaks to the person that's running these projects. And that's why, I started, that's part of what inspired me. And I'll go to the last slide. That's part of what inspired me to write my book, Build Boldly, right? You would expect me to write probably like a financial book, but no, a lot of it is about the human side. Like, we all have the good technical skills, but we need to spend some time looking at the human side and how we're merging both of it, the qualitative and the quantitative. How are we merging both of those things to run successful, bold firms? Right. So I want to leave you off, and I'll stop right there. I want to leave you off with that so that we can look at the questions. Please feel free to stay in touch. You can check out my website or connect with me, but I hope you found this helpful.
Bolanle, that was so good. That was so good.
I hope I wasn't rushing through.
Oh my God, the kind of energy. I mean, it was just amazing. It was like the comment section was just boom, boom, boom. It's amazing. I mean, we talk about it sometimes on the marketing team here about like we want to create an event that has like high insights per minute, right? It's like you just feel like there's just so much happening. Your presentation is probably one of the highest insights per minutes I think we've come across. It's just it's almost like you've just summarized so much of what we've been talking about in so many of the different events here, or different presentations, and you've done that in such a way where you're able to like talk from a. I mean, I love how you wrapped it up. How you're talking about it's not just the the quantitative, it's also the qualitative. Like quantitative is your outputs. A lot of that stuff is outputs. It's your inputs, which is the culture that you create, the environment, especially like when you're creating a bold organization. What does that mean for employees as well? I mean, I think it was just incredible. We do have some questions that I'm
Thank you.
sure many would
Yes.
love to get to. So
Yes,
I think
please.
there's a really interesting question here about like if you can comment on um, women being bold and men being bold, and there's likely like the idea of boldness and its perception or in the workplace cut across like gender biases. I'm just curious, like, what's your take on that from like, have you found that you know is that part of the framework that you think about, or is that separate?
Yeah, so I think men have no issues being bold. And what I mean by that is they could have like 30% of the qualifications, but men will show up. And a lot of times for us women, we're showing up more, right? We are showing up more. We are like bringing our best foot forward. But I think, because sometimes we think this is how it has historically been, my organization also doesn't allow me express that bold side of myself, so I have to like shy away, or I need to like check off 100% of the boxes before I can be bold and like share my ideas. I say, let's forget all of that, right? When I look at myself, when I look at other women or other women who have been really successful, who have made it to the top, it's by really being themselves and people being attracted to that, right? By leaning into that bold side. It's by making bold choices. It's by making those courageous choices, or taking courageous action that is going to put you on a trajectory that is very, very different or very, very exponential than what you could have even planned for yourself. So I say remove that. I also put a lot of onus on the leaders who are nurturing these women who are coming up. How are you allowing them show up? Right. So I am like gung ho on challenging people in positions of leadership to start thinking about what kind of environment are you creating, right? And so men will always do what they do, but we as leaders, we need to begin, both men and women in here, you need to create environments that allows women show up fully as themselves. We have the skill set, so that's not even it. that's not even the issue, right? We are 110% ready when it comes to either presenting ideas, giving nurturing, right, in leadership. I was just reading an article that said, sorry for the men in here, but I was reading an article that said that firms perform better with female CFOs. So it's there. It's there. I say start betting more on yourself. Again, it might not be easy for you if you're not used to doing that. Maybe you start on a smaller scale and do it over time, but that muscle will grow when you start leaning more into that bold side of yourself as a woman.
And part of the flip side to this too is like also going out and seeking those places that create that environment for people,
Yeah.
right? From the
Yes.
beginning.
Yes. So again, sorry, I'm going to use myself as an example again. I was bold when I was, one, getting my first job, but two, particularly when I was coming to Mancini. I really wanted to be in a firm that aligned with me from a values perspective. So in the interview, which was like a lunch, but in the interview, there were lots of things I asked outright, right? Expectations to make sure that I am set up for success when I take this position. Right. So that again challenges more. So I know I brought up the interview, but it challenges like from the door, before we start this relationship or this work relationship, what are the expectations that we're setting for each other? So So for me, like those are some of the things or some of the ways in which I've showed up boldly that has allowed me even thrive really, really well in the position that I'm in now. And I'm very, very passionate about making sure that I'm running an organization that does that too.
I love that. And I think it is kind of interviews is specifically are like a two-way street. And
Yeah,
oftentimes we think that, oh, we're the ones trying to sell ourselves, when in reality, you can always flip the table and actually try to get the other
you
person.
can. That alignment and finding the right organization is really critical to you thriving and growing very fast.
So we do have some other questions here. I think, one question that come up that's kind of interesting is like, speaking as a CFO as well, how open is the company about like its financial information when it comes to project management? Is that something that's kind of part of how the organization thinks about project management in general as well?
Yeah, so so for me, I am one of my career slash life goals is that full integration for project managers to think about their accountants or the accounting team as a core critical member of your project team. So just the fact that they're not billable doesn't mean that they are not an asset for you. Now, how that rolls into the information that's shared or how things are transparent is that you have this person who is working with you throughout the month to make sure that your project is successful. Your accounting team is raising flags very early on so that if they're noticing things in your numbers that you can now quickly fix either on staffing or fix on the floor, that helps your project as a whole start getting back on track. And so what I meant, I think earlier I had shared that, we firm wide, we share what our financial goals are for the year. We share what it is we want to do from a profit perspective. And then throughout the course of the year, we're giving people updates, right? It's if you as a designer don't understand what the impact is, I'm not saying that now you now need to like run your project, but what does my hour mean? How does this tie into our project? How can I start working more efficiently? Right? How can I start thinking more differently about how I'm working on my project and what that means for the success, the financial success and the overall success of the project? How can I start thinking differently? So we share this information. We have a month and our earnings meetings that we have with our project managers so that they understand how their projects are doing. And one of the things I loved is that a project manager was like, oh my goodness, I love this report. I can share it with my team so we know how we can either go into the next phase differently, right? If you've gone over, it doesn't mean you're going to be penalized. For me, I want to know why. If not, we can't fix, we can't fix the issues if we're not relying on our numbers. So transparency is key to running more successful projects. And I think when you share it with everyone has a goal, everyone has a target that they're working towards. You break it down in language each level can understand, and you begin to see improvements. I've seen it happen. I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean that's one of the, I mean, I we resonate and monograph completely with that challenge. It's one of the core things we have in our products, something called the money game, which is specifically trying to address this
I
problem of
like that.
bringing the finance team or finances into the project so that people have transparency and visibility. I mean, Bolanle, I just want to thank you so much for this amazing, powerful conversation around creating a bold business. I think it should just be onboarding material for any firm,
Oh,
regardless of whether they're
you're
advertising
so
or gaming
kind.
at the same
Yes.
time. You know what I'm saying? But I think it's just a critical conversation that needs to happen. In the way that you framed it is so clear and crisp. I really appreciate it. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. This has been wonderful.